Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. You are listening to the Wannabe Critic podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Gabriel Fast, and joining me tonight is Ethan Maestri, Elijah Middlesworth, and Jacob Labriere, and we are going to be talking about the finale of the Book of Boba Fett, as well as the Book of Boba Fett in its entirety. Gentlemen, how are we feeling tonight? Ethan, how you feeling? You're directly to my right on the screen, so I'll address you first. How's it going?
In first chair here, I'm feeling fine. I'm doing well.
You are the official co-host of this show, so congratulations.
PCP.
Well, okay.
I feel like I'm third wheel here a little bit.
Yeah.
Joining you guys is fun for the last 6 episodes that y'all done. It's been great listening to you. I'm glad to be here to be able to participate on this grand finale.
Yeah, I was a little upset that you wouldn't just, make predictions with us week to week because it's a lot of fun, but whatever. But who are real podcasters who commentate week to week? We have Elijah Middlesworth and Jacob Labriere. Elijah, how you feeling? You're looking nice and solo, if you know what I mean. Audio listeners, get wrecked because you can't see anything.
I just thought I'd pull out the big guns for the season finale. So if the episode sucked, at least you could look at me. So
yeah, there you go. Well, you're looking great.
Did you
happy
do this
you're
in
here.
honor of the Pikes since they showed up in Solo?
No, I don't like the Pikes all around. So no, I did not.
I mean, does anybody? They're kind of pieces of crap.
Yeah, they kind of are.
Yeah. Anyways, Jake, how's it going with you, my guy?
Real good. That's all I got.
All right. Leave it to Jake to ruin everything. No, I'm just kidding.
There goes the flow.
Yeah, no kidding. All the listeners are like, nope. As you can see, I am changing spaces, so it's a little messy on my backdrop right now. It is what it is. It'll be better next week, hopefully. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into the review. So you might be asking yourself, like, Gabe, are you going to be doing week-to-week content with these fools? And the answer is yes. So we are going to be doing a Mandalorian rewatch, and we'll be doing 1 or 2 episodes per week leading up to the premiere of Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's 16 episodes of Mandalorian, so that puts us basically right smack dab right where we should be if we time it right. So super excited, and I'm really looking forward to continuing this, this kind of vibe we got going, and it's been a lot of fun to podcast with you guys and do this. So thank you for joining me, and obviously we'll be keeping up with Punch Counter Punch and other stuff on this feed. So Keeping It Real is on a bit of a hiatus right now, just because there's episodes we still have to put out from the past few weeks I just haven't had time to get to yet. And I believe our next big project, a guy and his wife is officially stopping the MCU, and our next big project is going to be going through the MCU. So that'll be fun, and that's going to be like a 2-year-long project. So here we go. Either way, no one wants to hear about that. We're 5 minutes in. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like ready to talk about this. So, the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 7. It's the finale. Basically, I'm going to summarize it for you guys. This is what happened. Okay? An all-out war for Mos Espa, in which Boba and his gang take on the Pikes. There is some support from Freetown. Boba Fett rides a Rancor. Cad Bane goes out like a punk. And the Pikes get completely sunned along with all of the other families that betrayed Boba Fett and his, who were supposed to remain neutral. They tried to snuff him out, and they just all got wrecked at the end of the episode. So there's definitely some nuance there. There's a lot of little things to discuss, but is that a good Cliff Notes version of what happened for the summary?
Yeah.
I would say,
so.
You could probably sum it up even shorter. You could say, in West Side Story style, in the streets of Mos Espa, the Jets and the Sharks took each other on. Boom.
Yeah. Stay cool, Boba. Boba, stay cool. So I watched it first thing this morning because I didn't want social media to spoil it for me, because you know how I am. I can't stay off Twitter. I knew I was going to check Twitter at some point today. I just knew it was going to happen. So, yeah. So we have not talked about this at all off mic, really. I mean, me, Elijah, and Jake did a little bit. But before we kind of get into like our breakdown of the episode, our pros and cons, the things we like, the things we didn't like, I want to address a couple of things first. The first being how we feel generally about this series. So I read an interesting thread that, I had retweeted because a lot of us were complaining. It was like, oh, this isn't really Mando, this isn't really Boba's show. This is Mando's show. Well, things I had been saying for the past few weeks, there's a big thread. They announced this a long time ago that Boba Fett was meant to be part of the Mandalorian storyline. Like, that is what it was supposed to be, like a continuation of that. But it kind of feels like at times Boba didn't really get his chance to really shine. And at times, most of the time, I just kind of questioned why we have this show. Like, why did we need this? Like, what was the point of this whole thing? And I wanted to say that in preface to how we feel about it. So while I question why we needed it and why we got it, I guess the question I have to ask is, do we like it? I was entertained. I will say that. I was entertained, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like being in high school again, and like there's this girl that I really, really like, and she just keeps like playing with my emotions, and I just cannot get a read on it. It turns out she's just a psycho. It's just how she is. So in a weird way, the Book of Boba Fett is like the psychotic girlfriend in high school to me. It's kind of fun, but it kind of hurt me and confused me and damaged me emotionally. So, Ethan, I want to throw it to you. How do you feel about everything I just said just then?
Short answer, I like the series. I did. I'll just come out with that. You mentioned, how did you phrase that? Did we need to have it?
Did we need
that
this?
Or
what was the point of this?
Did we need this?
What was the point of this show?
Okay. I do want to cast us back to 2018 after Last Jedi had come out and Disney made the decision, we are not doing any more movies. We are going to focus everything on Rise of Skywalker. We're going to make sure that that's a good movie so that the fan base is happy going forward. All these other projects that we knew they had in the pipeline, off the table. I feel like, because one of those projects was a Boba Fett movie. There was going to be a Star Wars story involving Boba Fett in some shape, form, or fashion. I don't know if it was going to be what we got here, but I feel like the germ of that is what got translated into the Book of Boba Fett. You guys have been talking about the title and Boba Fett not being the centerpiece of the show, spending a lot of time with Mando, kind of the odd turns that this show has taken when it's called, you have Boba Fett in the name. When I first heard the name Book of Boba Fett, the first thing that came to my mind was, wow, that sounds very biblical. And so if you think about a book of the Bible, for instance, let's say Daniel, the book of Daniel, you have an expectation of who that's going to follow, right? The prophet Daniel. But who else do you spend time with in the chapters of that book? There are other characters, in that telling. You have his Hebrew companions. You have Nebuchadnezzar. You have stories within that book that go in different places. And so I thought it was a brilliant take for them to say, okay, we are going to advance the Mandalorian story. We can do it here, and we don't call the show Boba Fett. We make it something that is inclusive for other storylines to converge here. And I think they struck upon something brilliant in doing that. And in the end, I have some problems with this final episode. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it. But all in all, I think this is a series that we needed in order to go forward with a third season of The Mandalorian. And I think it fits very well. And I think when we look back on it in a year's time, I think we're all going to look at it and say, yeah, there weren't spectacular things revealed here, but it was good and it serviced the universe.
Lige?
I guess to go along with Ethan's comment. So, did you have this thinking? Because when I watched the end of the episode, I kind of got the vibe that this isn't the last time that we're going to see Boba Fett in this fashion on screen. That they set themselves up for a season 2 of this show. In my opinion, I mean, I could be way off base. I mean, Disney has canceled projects before. So if this was a one-off situation where there was no, hope for a season 2 or anything like that, would you still have the same, thoughts on the matter? Directed to Ethan.
I'd have to think about that, really. I mean, I look at it in terms of I poo-poo on making predictions, but listening to you guys make predictions week after week was very entertaining. I feel like if they had gone some of the places like where Gabe was saying, if they had killed Boba Fett, that would have been sad, and it would have been hard to go forward with further storytelling. They played it safe. They didn't do that. And so I think we can look at this series as something that allows us different branches to go in instead of it just being Mandalorian focused. Now, we don't have to focus on the Mandalorian going forward in our storytelling. And so this is a good jumping off point. And the fact we get to keep Boba Fett. He gets to exist in this universe, and I think that's a good thing. Would it have been impactful if they had killed him? Yeah, it could have been. And, man, I fully expected to see him go down in a blaze of glory sitting on the back of that Rancor. It didn't happen, and we get to keep Boba Fett, and I think that was a wise decision, if a bit safe. I don't know if that helps answer.
Yeah, that does. My whole bringing up the Mando taking up too much time on Boba's show was because I was under the impression that this was going to be a one-off thing. Now I'm not so sure. Yeah. And my attitude has definitely changed on Mando taking the spotlight in certain episodes just because of that fact.
I would say, yeah, that's a thought. But at the same time, it's just called the Book of Boba Fett. We have closed that final chapter. We don't necessarily have to go back to this as a series. Now we can use Boba Fett in intertwining his story in with Mandalorian episodes, and it makes sense because he's not the focal point. He services the story of Mandalorian and Grogu and whatever they're going to end up doing. And here's me making a prediction. If they do take Mando to Mandalore and he is somehow integral in reestablishing the Mandalorian peoples, I very much see Boba Fett being a part of that narrative. And now we see the power base that he is building for himself, and so he can come in as a heavy hitter and back up Mando for whatever plan is going to play out in future episodes with Mandalore.
Okay. Jake, anything to add to that / retort?
Nothing to add to it. I mean, overall, I do like the show. I don't think it's a bad show at all. I like it a lot. The only thing that I don't, and I think I was kind of, what Ethan said, I was kind of going down that path in the sense of maybe with the future of of what we see with Boba Fett, we'll look back on it and be like, okay, that makes sense. But at this point, from what I've seen, I just don't find bringing back Boba Fett, who we thought has been dead for over 40 years, is necessary of telling Mando's story. And that's the only issue that I really have with it right now. But now that we know that there is going to be more Boba Fett, maybe in the future, well, I'll probably look at it and be like, okay, I see where they're going with that. That does make sense. But as of right now, I don't really understand how bringing back Boba is necessary to Mando's story. And that's really, I think, the only issue overall that I have with the show itself. There's other minor things, but I think that's the big one overall.
So let me ask you this, Jake. So I noticed one thing that you and Gabe over these past few weeks have kind of talked about. I noticed it happened a lot in this show is Boba kept his helmet on, and his voice over a helmet speaker sounds way better than him talking in regular dialogue. Does that, if that is something that you see more often in the future when he comes around, is that better for you guys?
I did like it more this episode, but the only issue is I feel like it was too little too late. But
it had no weight. It had no weight to it whatsoever. It was like whenever he's talking, I'd be like, "There's my guy!" Like finally.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but why does this feel wrong now? Like, why does this? I don't know. It just didn't.
And
it felt wrong to you?
No, that's exactly where I was going with it. Like, I loved it, but it didn't hit. I was like, all right, cool. And we'll go ahead, Ethan.
Well, I was gonna say they need to figure out Boba Fett's character.
Yes.
There's Boba Fett, Tamura Morrison, and you have him with the helmet off when you need dialogue with his friends or with his family or with Mandalorian. But I think, and I would agree with all of you if this is where you're going with this, we all have a great respect and appreciation for Boba Fett the statesman. And when he has that helmet on, he can be in that statesman role. And if they can tweak and figure out how to keep him with that gravitas when he's on screen with the helmet on, Boba works. And I think if they can strike that balance between the two and roll Boba Fett out with the helmet on in those key moments where you need a heavy hitter, I think they'll have figured out that formula so that Boba Fett, the legendary character, can still exist, even though we know what's underneath the helmet.
Yeah.
So let me pose this question to the group then, and this is something that me and Jake kind of talked about throughout the day, and this is actually a good segue into this. So I was thinking about it today. Like, I was thinking about listening to last week's episode today at work, and I was really stewing over it at work, and I thought that there was a mistake that was made early on, and it's not Disney's mistake. And there's no way that this mistake could have been foresaw, unless someone knew that Disney was going to buy this and turn and, make this show. Does this show work if George Lucas never made Boba a clone? Where Boba was strictly an offspring, you didn't know who necessarily was under the helmet. We know who's under the helmet because we know it's Jango's clone. He's a clone. We've seen clone troopers' faces all this time. If he wasn't made a clone and he was just, a son that Jango had, does this work a lot better? Different person is under the helmet.
I already talked with them about it today, so I'll let you guys.
I'm just sitting there thinking. Go ahead, Gabe.
No, I was just gonna say, like, does it work better? No, I don't think it does. I don't think it makes a lick of difference because it's like, for all intents and purposes, like, we made the comparison between like Cad Bane and Boba Fett. I believe it was last week, where we kind of have like a lot of mystery around this character. So, to me, if the mystery had stayed there, it kind of gets into this thing is like, no matter what, we don't know who Boba Fett even is, or what his motivations are, or what drives him, or what is his purpose, and why does it make sense? I mean, the Tusken Raider stuff is by and far my favorite part about the show, easily, because it seemed like Boba had a purpose. And for once, this character that we knew nothing about other than his dad got killed by a Jedi, and he became a bounty hunter, like, okay, that's not an interesting purpose to have. And I enjoyed the mystery around that character, and it made sense whenever he kind of built his clan, built his tribe. He became a part of that tribe, and then he started to build his own tribe. I found that to be interesting. And I guess, like, if he's not a clone, I just don't see how that's any different whatsoever.
Do you think it gives it a better opportunity for better story writing that he's not a clone? Maybe that mystery could have been held in place because we don't know who's under the helmet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been way cooler if we had never seen. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, would it have been more interesting had we not known what he looked like? Yeah, so I think it would have been.
And would that be better? Opportunity for a better storyline to be wrote for the show.
It would have been, because whenever he climbed out of that Sarlacc and he took his helmet off, we would have been like, whoa! Like, it would have been wild to see Boba Fett's face for the first time. So, yeah, I mean, inherently having that predisposed idea of what a clone is, Yeah, I mean, maybe there's psychosomatically there's something where I'm just like, oh, like he's just another clone, even though I know it's Boba Fett. So, yeah, no, that's a really good question because I do think it ends up being better because then if he has his helmet off that whole time, then he's grown without it on with the Tuskens, and it would be epic whenever he puts on his helmet. Like it would have gravitas with that. You would be showing us without having to say anything.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great question. Having come up in the time where we didn't know what Boba Fett looked like unless you knew Jeremy Bullock, and then you might put his face with it. But, I mean, nobody was doing that. We had short stories and a few comic books with Boba Fett, and that added to the mystique. The thing was Lucas grabbed at something that unexpectedly became popular out of his original trilogy, and then he goes back and he grabs onto something and uses that as a component in the prequels. And yes, Lucas should not have done that if we knew we were going to get these stories today, because there is the old adage, never meet your heroes, because you're always going to be disappointed. And that's for basically just about everybody. I think there's a little bit of that going on right now with Tamura Morrison as Boba Fett. And it's a great question, but it's not an answer that anyone could foresee, Yeah. And there is the what if, and I think Gabe is right. If Lucas hadn't grabbed Boba Fett and injected him as a clone in his story, this series would be maybe a lot better. Or it might not have been at all. It may not have happened at all, too.
You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a great question, but there's not really any clear-cut answer to that, I don't think. And we lost Gabe.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
Hard.
We really
hard
lost
out.
Gabe.
Yikes.
Jake, you're the host now. You got to continue us in the show.
All right.
Where are we going, Gabe?
I don't know. I didn't have a whole lot to say about this episode.
I do
Really?
have.
Was that bad for you?
I do have one other thing to bring up outside of talking about the show itself that I wanted to kind of touch on.
Sure.
You guys were talking about the features of Cad Bane.
Mm-hmm.
And, since then the internet has really blown up about the whole, he doesn't look right. He doesn't look like he did in Clone Wars. And holy cow, I mean, come on, people. Clone Wars is a caricature, right? Mm-hmm. It's not how the real actors that we know, that is not how Anakin looked.
Right.
It's exaggeration. It's his nose is too big. It's those features that they pick on, same as the artist in the park that draws your caricature. You put that up on the wall and people say, oh, that's supposed to be Ethan because, he's bald and his ears are too big or whatever, the thing is. I hated how the internet is looking at Cad Bane in live action and going, oh, it doesn't look like Clone Wars. Yeah, that's a hard thing to do.
It's so difficult, but Cad Bane is such an iconic character, and this is not the first time we've seen the Duros species. I mean, I commented on oh, are you recording it?
Yeah, I just realized I could do it.
Oh, okay. I realized, looking at, and I retweeted, or not retweeted, but commented on Gabe's post about it. The New Hope, that was the first time we saw the Duros, and that, to me, that looked closer to what a Duros should look like than what Cad Bane. I mean, we have a Duros example in the New Hope, and we have a Duros example in Battlefront, and those look astonishingly different, in my opinion, versus to Cad Bane. Now, I did take, and we can retouch on this in the episode because I think Gabe would want to talk about this. I did think, watching this episode today, the far off shots when he was far down the street, he looked great. It was when he got close and you saw the lower half of his face is really what it was. They were trying to put that human aspect to this character and actually use human lips, put dentures in his teeth to make him have that alien physique, and it just missed for me. It's not bad. And it's like I told Gabe, we were texting about it today. He was giving me crap about it. But he was like, I don't understand why you're so picky on it. It's like, dude, if this is the only thing I have to be picky about really in the whole series,
You'll
this
take
is a
it.
pretty
Yeah.
good show.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things.
And,
So
and also we're talking about a guy that's had pretty extensive modification to his lower jaw.
yeah.
You know, I mean, did he sound electronic when he, spoiler alert, gets run through?
Yes. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
Mhm.
I detected a little electronic sound with him, with his last breath.
Yeah.
That and he's like 800 years old now too, so
Yeah.
Huh?
He's something stupid.
probably got some like face shrinkage going on there. I think overall, I liked the way he looked. I did think they could have done it a little better, but I think overall I didn't really have too much complaints about it. I mean, he was still pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
He looked awesome, and just to be able to see him in live action on
Yeah.
top of it was enough for me.
I just really, I really wanted to call out the YouTubers that are just like, he looks weird, he looks wrong, and I'm like, you're talking about converting from, you know, and you guys, I know you on Twitter were mentioning that you go from live action to Clone Wars caricatures, and okay, it's a caricature, and you
Right.
make that switch in your mind, and you just go along with those characters as the story is being told. But there's something weird about reversing that.
Mhm.
And I get where
Yeah.
you're coming from, but I think you also have to activate that same part of your brain that just says, okay, this is him in real life, using air quotes here.
Mhm.
And so this is what the artist decided to present. And so
Yeah.
you just go along with it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's expectation.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of a culture shock too. Like you're not you see the wide brimmed hat, and then you see the guy's jawline,
Yeah.
and that's not what you were expecting to see at all. Oh, by the way, Jake, not to interrupt, but he is 71 years old. By the way,
Oh, that's actually, I thought he was like over 100.
yeah, no, he was born in 69 BBY and died in 9 ABY.
Oh, okay. So while we're on the subject of Cad Bane, I don't know, maybe this is too early to get into it, but what did you guys think of him, the way he went out?
I'd say let's wait and see if Gabe can come back before we go into that one, because that's something
Okay.
he's going to want to talk about. He was bugged by it today. I could tell. He was really bugged by it. I don't know. I just don't want to talk about too much without him, because then he'll get mad.
I was gonna say we're kind of at that point where
Yeah.
we have to get into pros and cons and
I
stuff.
figure he needs to lead us to the next chapter. Did you guys know that Ming-Na Wen was 59 years old?
Yes, and she looks great.
Oh man.
Her
yeah.
and
What was the Twi'lek?
Jennifer Beal.
Yeah.
She's 50. She's 50. I think
That's
like
true.
58.
That was Jennifer Beal.
Mhm.
Not Jessica Biel, Jennifer Biel.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that
She
her
looks
older
great
sister?
too. No, I don't think they're related.
That is disappointing.
It's
I don't know
disappointing.
why it's disappointing. But it is.
It's disappointing.
Here we go.
So, yeah, the bad internet strikes again, gentlemen. I'm not sure. I missed a lot of that. Was really good conversation. We were talking about, you know, the last thing I heard was you guys were talking about, you know, had someone different been under the mask, you know, what would that have been like? And I do think it would have been better. Well, we're never going to see that, though. And we're never going to have that feeling, because it makes too much sense to have Boba be a clone in the long run, in my opinion. I think it is a better story to have the remnants of what was trickling into the future still, and like pushing forward, you know, those last little bits of the Empire kind of doing their own thing and kind of rebelling against its natural purpose. And you know, I think Borderline guys, what I think it comes down to is I think that the best episodes of this show had really good directing, and it wasn't about Boba. And every opportunity we had to see Boba had horrible directing. That finale, I mean, aside, to me, the highlight, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into the finale. I'm not going to get into it. But he was not well directed at all, in my opinion. Except for the Tusken Raider episode. That felt right. And
okay, but yeah, that really goes really well into the little. I listed the episodes how I think they rank, And I'm just going to run through that right quick with the point that you're making, Gabe. Number 1, Episode 5, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. Number 2, Episode 6, Dave Filoni. Number 3, Episode 2, Steph Green. That's the one where we really delved into the tribes of Tatooine. Number 4, Episode 4, Kevin Tentroen, I think is how it's pronounced. 5, 6, and 7 are Episode 7, Episode 1, and Episode 3. Robert Rodriguez. I put all three
Get
of
him
those at the
outta
bottom.
here.
Not because of the director, but just because those were the weakest episodes. That's how I ranked them. All of them directed by him.
But it's his fault that they're so weak.
It is his fault.
Every single thing about those episodes goes through him.
When you're a director of an episode like that, you have creative freedoms that you're allowed to take. And he just took the wrong ones every single time.
Here's the thing: is the directors are literally meeting with you. The producers are literally meeting with you to like make these decisions. And Robert Rodriguez is like, "Nah, I'm not going to do that. I made From Dusk Till Dawn and Spy Kids. You listen to what I say." And shocker, they freaking suck. All of them are so bad. I mean, bad is a bad word. I think I was texting Jace, and God rest his soul, he couldn't be here, right? So I was texting him, and he was like, "What did you think of Boba?" And I'm like, "It was okay." He's like, "This series is a 6 out of 10." And I said, "You're not wrong." It's frustrating that those words just came out of my mouth, because a big portion of why this series is such a mess to me is because of Robert Rodriguez. But back to my original point of Tamora Morrison being directed well, the Tusken Raider and building that whole arc, I thought we were getting an entire season of that. That's what we needed. It would have been like, or at least half the series, being about that.
But guys, I feel like this really was a stopgap by Dave Filoni and
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau.
Favreau, yeah. This was a stopgap by them. This was saying, we don't want to do Mandalorian Season 3 because we don't want to burn out the fan base. What do we do to advance that story, but do something different that the fans are going to enjoy? And this is what we got. This is not a focal point of the Star Wars universe in storytelling. This is a pivot point, is what this was.
I agree with you, but did we have to use Boba Fett as the catalyst?
Use a different character.
Because here's the thing.
You didn't have to, but the fan base wanted it, and they listened to that.
Okay, but
they should know better than that.
Yeah,
though.
and
they should know better.
Boba Fett.
They should know better than that. That's not what the fans meant when they said that they wanted it.
They've been using characters that the fans love in the everything previous that they had done. Clone Wars, Rebels.
You don't experiment in creative ways with Boba Fett, and Dave Filoni and Favreau should have known better. They really should.
Not in live action, at least.
I don't agree with that at all, because Boba Fett is a character that has, up until this first episode of the Book of Boba Fett, this was a villain, and people liked him because he was a villain. And Dave Filoni and Favreau looked at that character and said, how do we incorporate him into the universe and tell a story in which he changes? And maybe that's what, they took it forward, and maybe the fan base doesn't like where they've taken him. They've made him soft. And so I can understand a little bit of pushback on that point of it, but there's nothing wrong with them taking Boba Fett and advancing him in this universe.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Like Boba,
I do too.
Like using Boba it has potential to be one of the best things you can do, but they sucked at it. They didn't do a good job.
They didn't do a good job. They did not do a good job. Look,
they didn't do a good job.
What would have made Boba Fett better?
Oh God!
What would have made him better? Leave him as a bounty
number
hunter?
one,
let him work for the First Order?
I'm dipping out. I'm dipping out. No, I'm dipping out. Hold on. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you. I'm dipping out.
Christ.
I'm dipping out.
I'm dipping. My internet connection's unstable. Here's what should have happened. Okay. Yeah, Boba Fett is a villain. They didn't play into that at all. Not one time did he ever enact anything himself that was like ruthless or vengeful, which is in his character,
and
which
why,
they gave
See,
us.
I don't
is
agree with that.
Why is that?
I don't
because
agree with
he
that.
had a rebirth. He came out of the Sarlacc pit a changed person, and then got changed even further from that.
He's not the villain that worked for the Empire. He's not the villain that worked for Vader anymore. He's still a ruthless warrior and a killer. He's still a killer.
He didn't.
I mean, that's blatant.
But look, here's what I'm saying. Whenever Fennec Shand took out the Pike leader, and all of the clans of Tatooine, that should have been Boba Fett. What would have been more baller than a thermal detonator beeping as it goes in, and Boba Fett's just like walking away, because that would have played into his character, because that's part of who he is.
That plan was already set in motion at the beginning of the episode.
Right.
He told Fennec to take off on the speeder. So before, he was worried about what was going on at that point, without letting everyone else escape, and he knew Fennec could do it.
He was doing exactly what he had become. He was now being a leader and sending the assassin to do his bidding.
I think
that's what he wanted.
I think my issue though is, sure, if you want to follow the storyline of Boba's change, that's fine, but segue into it better.
Yes, it wasn't earned. Not one time. It doesn't feel. What did Boba even do? Give the order? Like, okay, I understand that. That feels like a season 2 or season 3 type move to do something like that. Should he not have done something, just a few things to play? It's like, yeah, we didn't see him have the thing of like, oh, this is who I am. I want revenge. I'm angry. Like, I'm upset at these things that have happened. Like, you can have a rebirth moment, but now you have to build back up. And when he crawled out of the Sarlacc pit, I do agree that was his rebirth moment. Him crawling out of the Sarlacc pit. That was a great visual representation. He's stripped of his armor. It reminds me of whenever Samus loses everything at the beginning of every Metroid game. It's like you're starting from scratch. There was no ripple of who he was as a person before that. And they kept alluding to it. They kept showing us him on, what's the clone planet? Camino. Yeah. They kept showing him on Camino. The first thing they show us is his dad getting his head chopped off, or him holding his dad's head, his helmet. And there were just multiple opportunities where they kind of played back into who he was, and I'm fine. I'm fine with having him grow as a character. I'm fine with him being the guy that's like, yeah, I don't need to do this anymore. You do it. I'm going to enact vengeance and do it my way. I'm fine with that. There was just no progression. It was just like, oh, I guess I'm a slave, and now I'm in this tribe in the first episode. And I just wanted, I wanted more progression, because kind of like Jake said, just didn't feel right. It doesn't. It just, he's like walking around. It's like, it's like, I don't know, man.
I think we should have got at least just one episode.
Something of him losing his crap, him of
who he was, because it's like we've talked about with the mystique of his character and who he's been built up to be. I think if we could have got just at least one episode of who he was, I think it'd be a totally different conversation.
And setting up who he needs to become.
Yeah.
Like, it's not enough for him to just have the family. Like, the kid should have gotten mauled by something, and he's just, like, laying into someone or something, and, like, the Tuskens are being like, God, like, take it easy. Like, a visual representation or them doing something to show his progression, and he's changing. He's trying to put on the new personality, so to speak. Like, but they didn't do that. Here he is. It's like, oh, here I am. I'm in the clan now. Like, come on.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Go ahead.
Did you like his portrayal in the second season of Mandalorian?
Yes.
Why?
Because it was vicious.
He was a vicious person. I mean, like, he had the calm, cool, and collectiveness, but when it came down to doing business, he threw down.
Did he not exhibit those same traits in this season of the Book of Boba Fett?
In aspects.
Did he?
It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. I mean, think about how he was with Cade. I mean, so I wrote down that Fennec in the beginning of the episode foreshadows Cade and Boba's duel perfectly. If you think about it, what did she say? I got it wrote down here.
You have to go to the leader.
She's trying to talk down Boba from gunslinging Cade with the first time he shows up and they're face to face outside of the exploded casino.
Do it on
whatever
your
it was.
terms.
Do it, and she said we need to adjust.
Yeah.
So Boba, against his old ways, is standing, and at each end of the street with Cade. They draw blasters. Cade wins immediately.
Cad. I'm
And
sorry.
it
I
just-
can't listen to you say Cade one more time.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm mixing.
You're mixing
Cade,
up your Destiny
Cade
lore with
Skywalker?
your
What?
You're mixing up your,
Yeah.
your Destiny lore with your Star Wars lore, and I just can't.
Well,
have
I'm
it.
saying Cad. I'm saying Cad and Bane at the same
Yeah,
time. Sorry
I know
about
what
that.
you mean.
So Cad and Boba are standing at each end of the street and they're dueling it out. Boba loses in a gunfight almost immediately. He's down. We all think that he's going to be killed. What I'm thinking in my mind that Gabe is right. Boba's dead. This is going to suck.
Not once did I
But
think
then-
that.
See,
Because
I
before
did.
he drops, you see the gaffy stick prominently slung over his shoulder, and I'm like, he's going to use that.
Yeah, that's the same. Whenever I saw that, I
I-
was like, well, Boba's got too much plot armor, I guess, because he's not
I'm
going
like,
out in this episode.
he went back for his Rancor, and he went back for his gaffy stick. He's going to use it.
I didn't.
And
think,
I didn't notice that until after he ripped his helmet off, and then I'm like, this is what she meant by we need to adjust. He changed his personality, his fighting style, and what happened when he changed it, he was able to take out the bad guy.
I mean, I guess he did have his moment whenever he took down the biker gang. But
That was a moment, yeah, for sure.
it wasn't deserved because it wasn't them. He just murdered people. Like,
But that's
so much to his character.
That's a Boba
yeah,
That's his
Fett.
character.
It is true. It is true. I mean, I guess
Shoot first,
that,
ask questions
that was
later.
the moment, but it just, I don't know.
well, but it was a moment. That's all it was.
Also, the train, the whole train. He was vicious taking out and going and taking out the train too. I mean, Boba Fett was there. There's no denying it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the more I think about it, it's like, yeah, I guess he did have those moments. So I guess you are right there. But then my question is,
I think what you're.
hold on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I guess my question is why doesn't it feel right? Why doesn't it feel deserved? Why doesn't it feel the way it should at the end of this freaking show? And it's because Robert Rodriguez freaking ruined it.
I think that's probably it right there.
The directing, I'm like, Kersantin freaking throwing those guys was one of the coolest things I've ever seen ever, because you're like, oh god, he's getting wrecked, and then he's like limping and he gets shot again, he's all and like falls down, and then these freaking Gen Zs come in here with their little pea shooters, be like, look at us, we're in Star Wars. I'm gonna do a twirl and freaking
Yeah,
kill
how about that
Oh
spin,
my
though?
god,
That
that was
spin?
so stupid.
Pathetic.
freaking punch my microphone.
And
it
it's
pissed
and
me
it's
off
that,
so
it's
bad.
That kind of decision making is why this last episode feels not as rewarding as what we wanted.
Yeah.
If they had given it to Bryce Dallas Howard, if they'd given it to Dave Filoni, we would be saying this is the golden age of Star Wars.
They would have literally, had it been anyone else, I'm getting so pissed right now. I can't even see straight. I'm 2 bourbons in, and I am like freaking going to war right now. Dude, had it been Bryce Dallas Howard or Dave Filoni would have been like, no. He's like, hey, Kathleen, check
keep
this
those
out.
kids off the screen as much as possible.
Yeah, or
and,
it's like,
and blow,
we're gonna
immediately blow up the Vespa
yes,
bikes.
thank you. Yes, I'm like, kill. I was like, as soon
The
as they
best
showed
part
up on
was the
screen,
green bike getting blown up,
Yes.
and the guy goes flying through the air. That was the best part of the whole episode.
As soon as they showed up on screen, I was like, holy crap, please kill them. And then I
the
realized
dialogue
she's like,
alone is
she's
cringy
like,
enough.
Dialogue
we
was
have to
awful.
protect these people, and Boba Fett's like, yeah, and I'm like, you just like stole
Yeah.
from them like a week ago, and now you just, it makes no sense. It's so bad and stupid, and it doesn't
Yeah.
make any freaking sense. And I guess there is an aspect of this whole thing where we have to consider the children, the kids, the younglings, the young ones, the younger generation. But you know what?
Jeez, he's really getting worked
I
up.
guarantee
You can't.
they freaking hate it, because if I would have been a 10-year-old watching this right now, I'd have been like, who are you? Why are you here?
Well,
I don't even know.
I was gonna
your
say
name.
you're talking about 10-year-olds, but this last episode you had a Rancor straight up eat a dude and then smash somebody else with their hand,
Literally,
and then launch another dude like
and just
across
literally
town.
pancake a pike.
Okay,
Yeah.
we need to move on. I'm getting too upset. Okay,
but
Cad Bane. Oh, I'm sorry. Go back.
We
Go
will.
ahead.
I will
Go ahead.
agree with you though that you have identified it, and you have every right to be upset.
I hurt my hand.
Those
whenever I punched my
episodes that we
microphone.
those episodes that we love had very little to do with the mod gang. It really was Rodriguez that leaned on that, and it didn't work. And so yeah, having it there felt less satisfying there at the end.
That had to have been his idea.
Oh, it absolutely was.
It was. I mean, yeah. Anyways, moving on. I hated this last episode pretty much. Like the Rancor was cool, and that was about it for me. Like,
man, I thought you were pulling my leg earlier today when you said this was a bad episode.
I didn't. No, I wasn't. I wouldn't joke. I don't joke about this type of stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
Are we talking about things we didn't like? Is that what we're focusing on right now?
No, we're gonna put a pin in it. I want to talk about Cad Bane just a little bit more for a second. Okay. Does he or does he not look like a Duros? Yes or no? Go around the room. Jake, you go first. Does he look like a Duros?
Just in general?
Yes. Yeah. Does he? Okay. Ethan?
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
Lige?
Generals, yeah.
Okay, that's all I want.
In general.
Moving on.
No, we gotta.
That's all we need.
No,
that's all we need to say.
You can't take the win that easy. No, that's not okay. That's not okay.
Look, okay.
I give you an inch, you take a mile. That's what happens here.
Elijah and I were having some discourse because I tweeted something out and I was like, look, everyone's saying that they hate the way Cad Bane looks because it doesn't look like the cartoon. That's the argument I've been hearing. Is that Cad Bane, that doesn't look anything like the cartoon character. It's like, well, that is a caricature of a Duros. Not to mention, we don't all look the same. I mean, Ethan and Jake kind of look similar, but we don't all look the same.
Me and you look the same.
We do look similar. I mean, I'm a bit fat, but you know what I mean. I would hope.
You both look like tools. It's funny.
The fact of the matter is even though Cad Bane did look a little bit different in this show, when we saw him in the distance with his black hat approaching Freetown, we didn't question for 1 second. We knew who it was. And whenever he lifted up his hat, it was like, Elijah's probably like, oh, that was an interesting choice. It didn't change the fact that we were seeing a live-action Cad Bane.
Absolutely not.
Could it have looked better? Could it have looked better?
Yes.
Yes, it could have. I agree. I think the teeth were a little much. They could have just made him a little crooked. And I think that would have fixed it. I think one thing that threw off that was they made his breathing apparatus a little too big, I think. I think had they kind of made it a little bit smaller and moved it up a little bit, we could have seen the indentions in his cheeks, and it would have been better looking. I think the breathing apparatus throws it off just a little bit, personally.
It makes his face look a little too round.
Makes it look
I
too
agree
round.
with that.
But whenever I see modern depictions of Duros, that being of what we've seen in like Battlefront and stuff like that as of late, it looks pretty close. Now, there's other...
I'd say...
Go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say...
as...
God freaking dang it, I hate Zoom so much. I'll go. I was just saying, as of late, it would make sense that, an older Duros might have a different looking face. I mean, what? Cad Bane's got to be like 100 at this point. You know what I mean?
71, we found out.
You found out? Okay, 71. So he's old. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't be crazy to think, maybe he's changed just a little bit with his looks. Is it bad? No, it's not. Does it look like a Duros? Yes, it does. Could it have been better? Could some tweaks have been made to make it look a little more like the Cad Bane, the first iteration of it, which is the cartoon? Make his teeth a little more crooked and kind of jacked up. His teeth looked a little too... His teeth were like Tamora Morrison's. I'm like, why does Tamora Morrison have veneers right now? Like... Does that, show them going to if they're going to show the mod shop, show them going to the dentist, you know what I mean? And Cad Bane while you're at it. I think there are details they could have picked out to make him look a little more like what we would expect. But all in all, I'm thrilled with what we did get. And it did sound exactly like him, especially in this finale. Go ahead, Lige.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I think you hit the nail on the head. When you were off camera, me and Ethan and Jake were talking about it, and I think the big thing for me was the jawline and the chin. From the nose up, it looks exactly like a Duros, but from the nose down, there could have been something else there that could have made it look more like what we saw in The New Hope, or even what we saw more like in Battlefront.
Yeah, you could have extended his chin down a little bit more, like giving him like a implant-looking thing. But
yeah, but the thing is, he's been on medication for like 30 plus years because of the apparatus and everything for tissue rejection and stuff. So he's swollen.
That sounds good. Okay.
And to be quite honest, he's only in the show for 2 episodes, and not even a full episode. So I mean, why put that much effort into him in the first place?
I mean, it's Cad Bane. We got a live action Cad Bane. It's fine. It works. It's good. I think it is borderline good. Okay, let's move on for that because I wanted to hear the fallout of that discussion since I didn't get to hear it. I'm about to sneeze. I can feel it.
All right.
I'm leaving that in. So let's move on to this final episode. We're gonna have true wannabe fashion. We're an hour in. We're finally getting to this. Jesus. Do we like the episode? Yes or no? I'll go first. Generally, no. I don't think it's a good episode. I think there are things in it that are really cool, but as far as a finale, it's one of the worst I've ever seen in television ever. Maestri.
For what we were teased in the build-up to this ends up being a solid meh.
Mm-hmm.
Jake?
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was a huge meh. I think watching it objectively, though, it was a good episode. Like, I watched it with Sierra, and she was actually, she was super hyped about
Okay.
not a lot of the parts, but some of the parts.
I have something to say.
What?
Lige, after you. Does it work for you?
So, like I said earlier, I stewed over kind of our last week's episode, our conversation, and with the realization of what the show is, I say it works. I mean, I liked the episode. I genuinely liked it.
I hate you so much.
I thoroughly enjoyed myself, dude. I had to come to realize that the show is what the show is.
Yeah.
Does it meet up to par to what the show is? Abso-freaking-lutely. I mean, it was probably the best episode that does not have anything to do with Mando in the series because of what the show has been made out to be. It fits the bill, and it was good. We got to see some awesome jetpack action, a Rancor. It was good. It had me thoroughly entertained throughout, minus the modders. The moody modders is what I call it, by the way.
There was a handful of moments where there were moments where I liked Mando and Boba together flying around doing their thing. Whenever I saw Mando swinging the darksaber, he's like, yeah, he's trying to get through the shield. I'm like, dude, it's not going to work. Boba Fett just shot a rocket at it, and you're swinging your sword at it that you just wounded yourself a day ago, and you're trying to break. Dude, it's not going. Come on. There were just moments where I'm like, this is so dumb. Why are we spending so much time here? And I get it. They wanted to, do their thing, whatever. There were subtle moments, though. Whenever Din finally does break through, and it's he's like, okay, well, I have to freaking stab this thing. And he does, and that was cool. But then we see his, his character kind of come out. He's like, frick, I'm going to die. And Grogu does his thing, and that was a nice moment. The moment whenever the Rancor is staring down, which, by the way, the Rancor looked amazing.
Dude, that was one of my notes. The prop was excellent.
That was one of the coolest things I've seen in Star Wars ever. I mean, just seeing him lay waste, just seeing how strong Rancors actually are in live-action Star Wars, and making that monster of our nightmares, seeing what it could have done to Luke Skywalker, had it had to, it was wild. But whenever Cad Bane... Go ahead.
I need Wizards of the Coast to come out of retirement on Star Wars and make that miniature with the Rancor with Boba Fett on top. I've got to have that with the step card and everything. I got to roll 20s on that.
It's so cool. Whenever he's this is why I'm so upset with the way they, and I guess we can kind of segue into the things we don't like, because there's a lot to not like about this episode, which is super sad. Whenever Cad Bane's just standing there, this is a tough old guy. He was a tough old guy in Clone Wars. And he's just staring down the Rancor you freaking idiot. And it gets close and he shoots his flamethrower at it. 2 times and the Rancor's ow, That was a baller move. That was so cool. Just that little moment of him doing that, and he's like, I'm not worried about you at all. Showing that standoff, which, by the way, there was a deleted spit of Clone Wars footage that had young Boba, and Cad Bane doing a standoff. And Cad Bane, in that moment, is the one who put the dent in Boba's helmet. It was never used, which is a freaking shame, because Cad Bane could have referenced it and said something like, you know, I'm gonna hit you in the same spot I hit you the first time, you know, something like that. But
Wow, that's pretty
yeah, it's freaking dope, and
He did it with like a Beskar slug or something, didn't he?
Well, no. So Boba blew up his original helmet whenever he tried to assassinate Mace Windu. So he used the helmet like as a bomb. So that helmet is not Beskar. It's something else. Yeah, which is kind of interesting. I didn't know that. I had to read up on it. But I just feel like they completely, this is my first big thing that I was really upset about. They gave Cad Bane a very unsatisfying end, in my opinion. Now, hold on. He may not be dead. Because if Fennec Shand can get her guts replaced, why can't Cad Bane? If Darth Vader can get his limbs chopped off and, you know, put back together, and they've been teasing this modding the entire time, that's obviously something that's super heavy, you know, according to the post-credits as well. Could Cad Bane still be out there walking around? We didn't necessarily see him, like...
Well, if the marshal survived after every villager thought he is already dead, and obviously
Why
he's
not?
still alive.
I forgot to watch post credits. What happened?
So in post credits, Cobb Vanth is in the back to tank, and the modder is like gonna fix him, and they allude to Boba and his crew not being, you know, not wanting to stay ruling Mos Espa. So Cobb Vanth's probably gonna take out, you know, Cobb Vanth's probably gonna take over Mos Espa, and we're probably gonna get a Cobb Vanth show. Is probably what's gonna happen.
Which I am 100% down.
That would be
for. I love
freaking
that.
awesome. Like a
I'd
full-on
watch.
Western, I'd be so happy with that if that's what it was, like a full-on Western. Like, he would do great. But if that is truly Cad Bane's end, not good. Like, stabbed through the gut with a gaffy stick? Come on.
I was okay
Come
with
on.
it. I actually, so like,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they could have come up with something better, but in my opinion, it was like, if he was going to die, it makes sense for Boba to be the one that kills him. And then on top of that, I'm like, yeah, the dude's old. And to your point, Gabe, Star Wars has been killing off all the old oh, he's gone.
Here we go again.
But there he is.
Sorry.
But
There you are.
yeah, they've been killing off all their old characters that they're not going to use anymore, and it's like, I don't know. To me, I was like, it works.
But, okay, hold
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
But
it's
hold on.
just it's poetic in that it's not a blaster bolt that takes him down. You knew that could not take Bane down. So Boba Fett, who is proficient with a gaffy stick, that's what ends this villain.
It is a
I thought it was
direct
great.
mirror of what happened to Boba Fett. Literally.
Yes.
It's a direct
Yeah.
mirror. So to me, it's like, are you...
Do you not think that that's fitting?
No, I don't, because we brought Boba Fett back to life. There's a cult following out there of people who love Cad Bane and do not want to
So-
see him die.
Not
So
as much
speaking
as
to your
Boba.
prediction, he gets modded, and then he comes back and he's the villain in the Marshall show.
That would be
Then he gets killed again.
That would be.
Okay.
Oh yeah. What if the Marshall's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna give this guy a second chance. You know what I mean? Like, then he could kill the Marshal, and then that would give Boba a chance to feel vengeful, and then come back and just kill everybody in Mos Espa.
That's never going to happen, but yeah.
I think he's dead.
Look, yeah,
We've seen so much of Cad Bane in the animated series that I don't know. I just don't see a reason to drag him through a live action.
Marvel's been getting away with it for years. Star Wars has gone down the same route. We have Darth Maul back, and has since died again. But I mean, you know, that's besides the point. But yeah, they do this where they'll bring the villains back. So yeah, maybe you'll get your wish. But I didn't have a problem with the on-screen portrayal that we had of Cad Bane's end in this episode.
Okay.
I didn't really either because, like I said before, this episode goes along with what the series is, and I mean that death for Cad Bane, it's fitting for how the series was written and how it was directed out.
So
I mean, it fits.
So Gabe, would you have been happier if he died the same way, but it was just dragged
Directed
out
by
more?
Bryce Dallas Howard instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it just felt so jarring and like not good at all. Like poorly choreographed, poorly acted, first of all. And it's just like he just like sticks the thing to him, and he's all nothing.
See, I did like that. Oh no, you're talking about Cad. I thought you were talking about Tamara Morrison's facial expressions when he killed.
No,
Cad.
he was.
Tamara
Morrison was fine, I guess, but just the whole sequence just didn't feel.
It was rushed.
It was. It just felt.
It did feel rushed. I will say that.
It felt.
But that's the whole series. The whole series was rushed.
Again. Another thing. I can't wait to read my pros and cons list.
That's.
I
was gonna say that was one of my cons. I'll hold off if you want me to.
Yeah, I mean, my cons far outweigh the pros of this show. So
this episode or this series?
The series in general.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Which is sad because there's great Star Wars. I mean, there's great stuff here, but I don't know, man.
So what I'm hearing is, Book of Boba Fett is great if you watch episodes 5 and 6, and maybe the second one, but the rest of it's kind of trash. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I just feel like we needed more than 7 episodes. Why couldn't we have a 12-episode season?
Because that's exactly what I'm saying.
But this isn't going to be a continuing series. This is a stop. This is a whistle stop on the way to further storytelling with the Mandalorian and Grogu.
I agree with that.
This is not something that we're going to be revisiting. This is a Star Wars story in the same vein as what we were getting with the earlier movies before they pivoted and went to streaming service instead.
Okay, I get that, and that's fine. But could we not have had just one or two? We had that amazing episode 2, right? It was an hour long. And then in the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the third episode, it's just over.
You're absolutely right, Gabe. But I will ask this of you: could we have gotten a better sequel trilogy?
Oh my
yes,
God.
we could have,
Here
but we
we
didn't.
Here
and so
we go.
we're right. You're banging your head against that same wall that I had banged my head on for years prior. It's you could have had an extra episode thrown in there, but it didn't happen.
I know. Well, what did I say last week? They're going to break our hearts, and that's exactly what they freaking did because they brought freaking Robert Jonathan Rodriguez into this freaking story and ruined my life. All right? That's what freaking happened to me.
You are a more emotional me from last week because you're saying the exact same thing that I was trying to say last week. And then I finally accepted by hearing you tell me for the second time today that this is not what we have. It would have been great if we had 3 more episodes with Boba, but we just don't have it anymore. It's just not possible.
Yeah, listen to Middlesworth because honestly, you go down this dark path.
I'm gonna cry.
You go down this path, and you know what you will become. You will become Ethan Maestri from 2015, and you don't want to go there. Trust me. I've been there. I crawled out of that Sarlacc pit, and I'm a better man for it. And you need to get on top of this now.
Ethan reinvented himself.
That's right.
In 7 episodes.
Yeah.
No, more like 2. More like 2 episodes.
I had to.
Yeah. Here's the thing. At the end of this series, I found myself my initial reaction was like, wow, that was really rushed, and we spent so much time doing stuff that didn't matter. Those spider droids, am I frozen? No, I'm not.
No,
Those,
you're good.
like, battle droids that the Pike Syndicate had, those were cool. Why do we need to spend 12 minutes with them? And why did we need to repeatedly show...
Because they resurrected a prequel design and brought it onto screen finally.
Which is cool.
Yeah, Big Brother droidicas.
I mean, 10 minutes is a long time to focus on one thing, and they kept doing the same thing. And it was like, Mando would be like, well, I'm gonna run away, and like they did that repeatedly. It's like, dude, what did you think is gonna happen? I don't know.
But Chrysanthemum almost did make it through.
Yeah,
Chrysanthemum almost did make it through. That was really cool. I thought that was...
The reason for doing that, Gabe, was because it's easier to hire CGI interns to work on that than hiring extra Pike to flood the streets. That's why you got that.
It's the climax of the show, too. I mean, this is the big battle. I mean, what's a big battle without a big boss? Cad Bane's going to be the big boss.
And that was one of my cons for this episode is it felt like they tried to pack way too much into it. And it felt like it was complete chaos.
Yeah,
which is weird.
In a good way.
Hot take. We did not need Grogu and Amy Sedaris' character We
No.
did not need them in there.
I did like the tooth falling out, though. I really did.
Yeah, I know. I like her a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
but
that
she
was
didn't
pretty
need to
funny.
be here
Yeah.
at that moment.
Why couldn't she have
Yeah.
just shown up at the end, while they're playing that da 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 da,
Mhm.
like so it's just that a triumphant moment at the end of the episode, and it's just like it added more stress to the whole thing of it. And it's like Grogu. I just remember thinking to myself like, Mando should kill her for bringing Grogu here. It's kind of what I was thinking to myself. I'm like, why are you here? Why don't you just page him?
She didn't know.
She
didn't
freaking
know.
called him 3 episodes ago and said, "Hey, I got a Naboo cruiser for you. Why don't you come over
did
here and
she
see
not-
me?"
Did she not
He's
hear
left-
the explosions
Yeah.
and the roaring rancor before
I-
bringing the child into the streets there? I mean,
a couple
honestly.
episodes ago, Ryan was like, "Oh, that's Amy Sedaris. You're lucky to have her." I'm like, "Yeah, I hate her. I still hate her, and I probably
He
always will."
left his flip phone in the Naboo Starfighter.
Yeah,
That's why she
he was
couldn't get a
like,
hold of him.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, there was a lot there. Well, Ethan or someone said, Jake said that they packed a lot into this episode, and that's why I'm saying directing really comes into play hugely. Because how long was episode 6, gentlemen? 40 minutes.
I can tell you right now. I have it pulled up right here.
Who directed
It
that episode? Dave
was-
Filoni, right?
Dave Filoni did, and it was this
Thought it was an
this
hour.
website saying 52 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that amount of time, Dave Filoni showed us Grogu and Luke Skywalker training, the Mandalorian going and meeting with Ahsoka Tano, Cad Bane squaring off with Cobb Vanth, and they packed so much into an episode that felt so perfect. Which
Yeah.
really just goes to show, like, directing style is such a huge thing, and Robert Rodriguez does not know how to direct a Star Wars story. And why didn't you just give the whole freaking thing to Bryce Dallas Howard in general? Like, how hard would that have been to do that? But we didn't get that. So moving on. What was
You know
one thing
what?
Jake
Ryan
didn't
Johnson does great with his directing stuff. Don't give him
like-
Star Wars.
like?
And I think we don't give Robert Rodriguez.
I like Ryan Johnson's
Honestly.
Star Wars. I mean, I still like The Last Jedi a lot. Anyways, moving on. Ethan Maestri, one thing you weren't crazy about this episode.
I think the biggest thing I didn't like was the shad spin. That was egregious. Honestly,
The what?
It was the shad spin.
The spin.
The spin, throwing Chrysanthemum off his back, spinning and shooting. What? There was no incoming blaster bolt. There was nothing to avoid. So why spin? It was.
With the
I want
was
someone.
a horrible directing decision.
I want someone
Yeah.
to put Mr. Bombastic, like in slow motion. He's like, I'm Mr. Bombastic.
Bombastic.
like slow motion as he's shooting it. It was just horrible. Robert
That-
Rodriguez was like, wait, stop. He's like, coming in, he's like, stop. Everyone shut up, stop. You, monocle boy. He's like, you better freaking spin.
Mr. Peanut.
Your future depends
Please
on
spin
it.
for us.
It depends on it. Junie Cortez could do a great spin, and you cannot. No. Junie Cortez.
speak.
From Sploogalies, I'm Robert Rodriguez. No, it just
Speaking of
Horrible.
too, I
So
felt like there
bad.
was way too much. I felt like there was way too much slow motion
oh my god. don't-
included too. Bunch of little like slow mo clips in the middle of the fighting. I was like, it's starting to feel like Transformers.
Yeah, it just
A John Woo film.
Yeah.
literally, it just wasn't. It didn't feel right. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. It didn't feel quite right. Lige, one thing you weren't crazy about, and then we're gonna move on to some general thoughts about the series, general thoughts about the episodes. If we have pros and con lists, any notes we want to have, they want to hash out, give your con, and then we got to take a pee break because I'm about to piss myself. So, there we go.
I didn't really care for a whole. I mean, I liked the episode as a whole. There wasn't really a whole lot that I could pick out that we didn't already talk about. I mean, obviously the mods are just garbage. I mean, their dialogue is terrible. Their acting is terrible. Their bikes are terrible. So I guess that would be the big thing, and
thieves.
the other big thing. Yeah. I mean, who's not to say they didn't give that water to everybody else? I mean, they could be Robin Hoods. You don't know. Quit judging.
I hate 'em.
Anyway, the other big one for me was there was no Danny Trejo in this episode, and he was not shirtless or did not carry machetes.
That's very true.
It
I would like
would've-
to have seen that prediction come true.
I really would have loved to see that The missed opportunity that would have made the episode. The whole series would have been better for it.
Okay, is that really your con?
Honestly, I can't think of really anything.
I mean, we've ripped this episode to shreds already.
We have. I'll counter with something I really did like. I really did like the use of World War II props in this episode. Like all the blasters were all World War II rifles, and I feel like that depicts to the original series pretty hard. And I really like that connection that was made. So I'm not going to give a negative. I'm going to give a positive.
I hate you. All right. Gentlemen, it's been about an hour and 14. Let's take a pee break, and then we'll do our final wrap-ups. And we'll start with my pros and cons list, and then go from there.
Sounds good.
You know, I really love to have it out, like, on the show and, like, get all my aggression out. But whenever I, like, make notes, I try and be as reasonable as possible. So I'm going to start with the pros first. Pro. New live-action Star Wars. The fact that are getting new Star Wars, I mean, I will always be pleased when we get new Star Wars. That's amazing. I mean, that's how it was with the sequel trilogy for me. It was like, how can you complain? We're getting new Star Wars. You know, it's what my thinking was. And I still feel like that. I mean, we can pick it apart later. 2, we're seeing characters we love. Luke Skywalker, Boba Fett, Mando, Ahsoka Tano, I mean, Cobb Vanth, Cad Bane. Chrysanthemum is a new favorite. Like, we have a new Wookiee in the universe to, like, love, and, you know, it's canon. That's great. Continuing Mandalorian story. 2 of the best episodes of Mando we've gotten by far were in the series. Interesting use of Tatooine. I know a lot of this stuff had been present in the past, you know, bits and pieces of it, but to see it live action and to see it kind of being fleshed out more, and that left me wanting more than anything. Like, the fact that Cobb Vanth will probably get his own spin-off doing his own thing, super appealing to me, especially if, like, Chrysanthemum is, like, in his posse. That could be kind of cool. And this show, for all of its technicalities, and I'm talking about directing, acting, dialogue, all that, for all of its technicalities, this expands the universe of Star Wars in a really, really interesting way. Because we have all these new characters, we have all of these things coming into play that are opening up more possibilities for storytelling, whether it be through comic books, games, live-action shows, animated shows. Sky's the limit. It's expanded the universe in a really, really special way. So those are my pros. Here's my cons. Strange directing across the board, except for the Mando episodes. The main character, or what felt like the main character of this show, felt overshadowed in many ways. And the fact, not in the sense of, oh, like, kind of like what Ethan was talking about, like, oh, this is like the Book of Daniel, you know, or whatever, and all these characters are doing these things. That's fine. It just felt like the 2 episodes we got that were featuring somebody else. I think I used a comparison to, like, whenever rappers do their thing, they don't want to have Eminem guest on their record because he's going to steal the show. That's exactly what happened with Mandalorian. We're inherently comparing the finale of the show, which could have been, I think, a lot better had we not had the previous 2 episodes that had our hype levels through the roof. And you cannot tear yourself down. You cannot tear down excitement just to take something like at face value for what it is, because they've set up 2 solid episodes of storytelling where it's like, oh my God, they're going to have to top this, right? Is what should have happened.
You can't see Luke Skywalker and then have him not show up in the X-Wing.
Exactly. So the main character is overshadowed in multiple ways, which is fine. You can have other characters and have them do cool stuff, but nothing he did felt as significant as what we saw other characters doing, which I think is a problem. Pretty weird at times, pretty cheesy at times. Again, I was asking myself, what was the point? We kind of answered that a little bit, you know, showing this progression, which I still don't think really got the time it needed and deserved. I think it could have used at least 1 more episode, 7 episodes. Why couldn't it have been 8? Just one more episode of, you know, 1 more hour-long episode. I really think that in a lot of ways, the way they handled his character, it cheapens him. It cheapens our thought of who Boba Fett is and what he has done. This is the man that brought in, like, this is the man that captured Han Solo, or helped capture Han Solo. He brought Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt. He has done crazy things and lived through crazy things. And just to see him kind of, I don't know, not really, like, he's in a place that feels like we needed another full season of storytelling to get to that moment, and we're just kind of supposed to just take it. Go ahead, Ethan.
I just would like to point out that he did not capture Solo. If that's kind of what you're inferring there, it was actually the Empire that captured Solo. He was just there to collect.
I would like to add on to that too. Now seeing how Boba Fett is as a character now and kind of learning a little bit more about him, would he have even done it if he knew Darth Vader was Anakin Skywalker? He wouldn't have done it. There's no way.
But nobody knew.
Yeah,
nobody knew.
So, and I said helped. I said helped bring in. I said helped bring in.
Okay.
To Jabba the Hutt. So yeah,
I just want to clarify that. We didn't see him do anything spectacular.
But still, to bring in a bounty to like one of the crime lord of Tatooine, I mean, come on, that would take some cojones, like to stand in the presence of like the most powerful person on the planet. I think that's cool. I mean, he's done some pretty cool things, you know.
To be a selected few to work for someone that's in that position of power.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly, you're exactly picking up what I was laying down. His reputation, like, allowed him to do that. The fact that he's Boba Fett and he's legendary and he's renowned as being the most successful bounty hunter in the galaxy at that time, if I'm not mistaken. Like, he's numero uno at the time. So he has a pedigree that I just feel kind of got thrown out the window a little bit in this, or just not really acknowledged near as much. Go ahead, Ethan.
But this is years later. This is years later, and he knows he's lost a step. And he talks about it repeatedly throughout this series. I'm not going to be a hunter any longer. I can't be a hunter any longer. So I have to figure out a way to change what I am.
Okay, just a side note, I won't steal the thunder, but to go with Ethan's point is Return of the Jedi took place in 4 ABY. This Mandalorian series happens within a year in 9 ABY. So we're talking 5 years difference between when he fell in the Sarlacc pit to now.
Yeah, he spent like a few years with the Tuskens. So, okay, that's good. That plays into my argument even more. He's probably going to be doing more stuff. So why do I not feel like I'm wanting more of Boba Fett? Why would I rather see Cobb Vanth doing his thing than freaking Boba Fett? That's bad. And I think it's overall to my next con, which is it's rushed. Why is all of a sudden Boba Fett, he's gone through this big transition to do this thing. He's not going to be a hunter anymore. That's great. He was going to be the daimyo of Tatooine and do all this other stuff. Great. Why is it all of a sudden it's like, actually, you know, LOL, nah, we fought for this place. We almost died, but nah, we don't want to stay here. We're going to do something else. What are you going to do that is going to have any purpose or any weight whatsoever? Go back to bounty hunting with your new posse? Great. Why couldn't we have just done, I mean, is that, there is no moral journey at all if he does that. What is he going to do next? He just shows back up on Mandalore whenever, you know, Mando kind of takes over that planet or does a thing. I don't know what purpose Boba Fett has moving forward. It feels like he has served his purpose. So if that's...
He served his purpose... Go ahead, Jake, sorry.
I was just going to say, I kind of hope that we don't get Boba very much in Mando, strictly because of a point that Gabe brought out a few episodes ago of this town's not big enough for the two of us. Because I did feel like in this episode...
It didn't.
It just didn't work.
It did not work.
Them two together...
The no-name Mandalorians that we saw in Mos Eisley, I believe, is where they were hiding, right? Whenever they're all flying and doing their thing and helping Mando escape, That was
that was Navarro.
Navarro. That's right. Thank you. That was more BA than watching the two most legendary bounty hunters wearing Beskar doing their thing.
And
I don't agree.
Everything
I do
about
not
what you
agree.
just said was wrong.
That's incorrect.
Didn't do a thing for me.
Well,
Wow.
because you're looking at two individuals that are coming at life from totally diametrically opposed points of view. They have a great moment in this last episode, in which Mando says, "This is the way," and
this is the
and
way.
Boba counters him. You really believe that? Well, I hope that works out. I hope you're right this time. Boba doesn't hold to the same creed as Mando, and they work really well in those two roles.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when we see them jetpacking off, doing their own thing, like fighting together, doing that. That's what I'm talking
screen
about.
Together.
I thought it was great.
I thought it was
cool. I thought it was cool. I just didn't think for me it didn't work.
Because
I thought it was cool. I just didn't
agree.
think it was as cool.
These are two different characters, and they don't need to spend a whole lot of time in the same orbit. You're right. I will agree with that. But Mando is there because of his deep respect for Boba Fett, not because of who he was, but because of what he did for Mando in Season 2.
Right.
There's a reason he threw back the credit bag to Fennec Shan and said it's on the house.
Yeah.
There's 100% reason. There's a deeper connection there than just them being
Right.
a Mandalorian.
We're not arguing that.
We're not arguing.
That connection later.
We're not arguing that.
We're not
for a
arguing
reason.
that. We're saying them flying around together doesn't work. Like them flying around, doing their thing, sharing the same frame. I was like, why does this feel wrong? Why does this not?
So
fit?
you're telling me that to see the big berserker, Mandalorian that has the 50-pound armor on and with a big chain gun flying through the air just blasting stuff while there's a bunch of smaller guys running around, that's better than the most legendary characters that we've ever seen in the Star Wars universe fighting side by side together?
Yes.
100,000%.
Yep.
Magnificent Seven style. We're talking westerns. This is a true western.
We're going to be doing a rewatch here pretty soon, and you're going to be able to see it firsthand. And you'll be like, God dang it, Gabe was right again.
Absolutely not. I will never relent.
All right, to each his own. That's fine. We didn't agree about Cad Bane either. I'm not going to argue until I'm blue in the face. It just didn't work for me. I didn't think it looked good.
Yeah,
I thought it was weird. It was like my uncanny valley was like, I'm like, what? Why doesn't that look right? That looks like it should be different. I mean, go ahead, Jake. You have anything to add?
Well, maybe I'm not describing it right, but it almost was like it almost felt like a power struggle. Almost like it was like
this shouldn't be happening.
Like they weren't competing, but that's how it felt.
That's exactly how I felt. Yeah. Who's more cool? Who's more cool, like Mando or Boba? I'm like,
and
I don't know. I think they're both kind of idiotic right now, is what it looked like to me.
It actually did, but I felt like it brought Mando down, like his. I don't know what the word is. It brought him down.
Oh my god!
When I saw that, like, because I looked. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go. You go. You freaking go.
I was just gonna say, like, when I was watching it, in my head, I was like, "That's cool." Stop.
Kinda. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. I'm like, that's enough. Stop flying around now. Like, I don't know. It just felt weird. But if you guys loved it, I'm not going to tell you otherwise. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not disagreeing with anything is saying, all right?
Well, I will. You're wrong, so.
Whatever.
You guys are broke in some weird ways.
I hate you.
Yeah. Who hurt you?
I hate you.
Boba.
Can you show me on the doll here?
Moving on. The dialogue in the show is horrendous. Most of the time.
Okay.
Most of the time.
I had a negative on that. Fennec Shan's exposition, especially in this last episode, twice when she does it, very stilted. Not well delivered, I will say.
Which is very shocking to me because as far as I can read from behind the scenes, reporting, is that she was the Star Wars nut. Whenever Tamara Morrison had a question, he turned to Fennec and asked her the question, like, what are they talking about here? And she'll explain it to him, and it still is rough. Like, and I don't understand why.
Oh, and my last, we just kind of moved on from this point. My last con was, aside from that moment whenever he's like, this is a way, and he's like, you really believe that? Like,
good.
That was the only thing that felt chemically correct to me. Most of the time, whenever they're on screen together, their interaction I felt nothing. I feel no chemistry at all between those two characters.
I had the same thing written down. That scene, that little exchange for me, it worked.
Is it because? So let's round back here. Is it because we see Boba's face more than we see Mando's face, and we think Boba's not a serious character?
No, I think it's because Tamora Morrison's a bad freaking actor. Like, again, saying I don't think he, I don't know why I feel the way I feel, but I can't help it. I can't help it, and I can't help but document it and say, like, why does this not work for me? Maybe, you know what? I've watched this show basically 3 times through already, and I've liked it more and more each time I've watched it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I gave Tamora Morrison, too hard of a rap, or too hard of a time. And I think about it, no, I'm getting used to it more. And the acting prowess between Tamora Morrison versus Pedro Pascal, who has a freaking helmet on, by the way, it's no comparison for me as to who is the better performer.
So just a side note, not to undermine anybody, but do we really truly know that that's Pedro Pascal doing all the stunts underneath the helmet, or doing all the monologue underneath the helmet? Do we know that for a fact?
All the dialogue?
He is.
All the dialogue.
Well,
yeah.
the dialogue is him, but I mean, you're talking about acting. Acting is more than just voice acting.
I think
Is he under the armor doing his thing? Is that him? Truly,
I think it is.
Yeah. I know for a fact it's probably not, because he complains about being in the suit sometimes. So that could have played into it as well. If they did some Industrial Light and Magic to where there wasn't actually true interaction between the two characters and it was a stunt double in the suit, maybe that's part of why it didn't feel right to me. I don't know.
and see to the fact. We know that Tamora Morrison's the one that's in Boba's suit. We know that because we know the misshapen figure that he has. It doesn't look right. You said that before. So
Looks like a giant baby.
What if it's not all his fault? I mean, give him mad respect for actually sitting in the suit and playing his part.
I'm not.
What?
I'm not saying that Tamora Morrison didn't do his best and didn't play the part to the best of his ability. That is not what I'm saying. And I do have mad respect for him because, like, kind of seeing what happens on these shows, like, behind the scenes, it is a lot of work. And if he was, like, fully committed to doing most of the work himself and, like, legit doing and trying to be the character, yeah, I have mad respect for that. It doesn't change the fact that most of the time, for me, it didn't land, and it sure as heck didn't make me think, like, oh, this is the Boba Fett I wanted.
Right. Sure. It's the same for me, but I mean,
It's the Boba Fett you deserved. That's what it sounds like.
Thanks for pulling us out of that, Ethan. I appreciate that.
With
Thank
that
you.
attitude.
That was going nowhere.
So that is my pros and cons list, and I really thought hard about it. And maybe some of it's unfair. I'm not saying that it's all fair, but I tried really hard to be reasonable. So whatever you guys want to do with that, let's move on to the
Thank
to
God
the next.
Finnick was not named Rachel. There.
Rachel. There we go.
Oh,
Where's Mikey when you need him? God, Mikey does that really good.
Yeah.
Mikey's timing is sorely missed. He'd be a great buffer for this conversation. So who's next? Kind of this is like your chance to get it all out there. Go ahead, Maestri.
Go ahead, Ethan.
I love the fact that the Sand People got a lot of love in this and became more than just the butt of jokes to just, snipe from a distance or go, this realized the Sand People as a culture. And I think for that alone, we should look at this series and say it has contributed more to Star Wars than what we got in 3 movies that were recently made in the Star Wars universe. We got Halo in our Star Wars. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm still kind of geeking out over that. That was awesome. Luke Skywalker starting the Academy. I cannot stress enough how important it was to see that from an old school EU point of view, reading the Jedi Academy series and whatnot, and seeing the start of it. Now, I didn't like the fact that it looked like the stone buildings in Last Jedi. I realized it was probably supposed to be 2 different places, but they were very similarly designed, and I didn't care for the projection of that. It, to me, seemed to indicate that they're still including the sequel trilogy in the canon, and they're still entrenched in that mindset, and that's fine. I'll continue to have my beef with that, but that's fine. But we did see Luke turning his attention toward not being the only Jedi left, but turning it toward, all right, who can I expand the Jedi Order with? Who can I teach? And he's actively out there looking and taking steps to make that happen. And so, yeah, I think this gives us some really solid things to look at and say, this is the Star Wars that we really wanted post Return of the Jedi, and we got it. And I think the series, all in all, ends on a positive note, despite the very ending that we've talked about here.
I'll rebuttal your Jedi Temple comment a little bit, because that is the exact same building that we see that's ablaze in Rise of Skywalker. Or Last Jedi, I'm sorry, because I'm looking at the GIF right now, and it's the exact same building. It's just a lot more architecture around it. So I like how they're following with, the sequels. It loses hope a little bit, because even though I like the sequels, and I think Gabe's on the same page with me, if they went off into Legends, it wouldn't bother me at all. So I was kind of, with our conversations, I was kind of, letting up hope a little bit, because I was like, oh, well, what if Luke Skywalker does show up and then gives Grogu the lightsaber? Is that going to change everything? But we see that it didn't. They're right on track with, continuing on into the sequel trilogy story. It could, but I highly doubt it.
I mean, those are minor things too that are
At
the same.
this point, we're looking at
sequel,
20
so.
good years, and then Ben goes bad, and then it goes off.
Well,
the rails
and
from
here's
that
the
point.
thing too.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of Star Wars until the bad stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There's
We got
so
a lot of
many.
Star Wars.
There's so many like iterations of what the Jedi Temple. Not so many. I mean, there's a handful of iterations of what the Jedi Temple in the EU looks like. I've been reading the Invasion series, and it's like the Jedi Temple is not some grandiose thing. Like,
Yeah, I will say
it's-
the Jedi Temple in Coruscant, or the Jedi complex on Coruscant, that is a monstrosity.
gaudy.
Yeah,
It was way
much,
too gaudy.
much. And this is more in keeping with what an actual Jedi, as we have seen a good Jedi be. It's more humble and more modest, and I do applaud that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's just a lot of opportunity. If they decided, so just a side point, if they decide they're going to keep the sequel trilogy as canon, you can make Legends off of what you're building right now. Like, if you really wanted
Oh, yeah.
to. Like, there'd be...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, literally, Marvel owns the What If storyline, which is owned by Disney. So, I mean, if they wanted to bring in a What If storyline for Star Wars, why not? Like, that type of thing. Like, or you could call it If What, like, and put like a Yoda thing on it. If what?
Yeah.
Not bad joke. Sorry. Anyways,
The only negative is that that wouldn't be to the degree that we would like. It would be novels and maybe minimal comic books. That's the only negative thing.
you're not wrong.
Two negatives about the series I'll bring up right here. We had the wrong character with blue skin and red eyes, in my opinion. But that's a different beef altogether.
We're
And I'm
getting him
sure
in Ahsoka.
we'll get to it.
We're getting him in
Yeah,
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka's-
That's
there
what
we go.
Ahsoka's doing.
Save it for that.
Ahsoka's
Okay,
gonna do
works
that.
for me.
Oh, yeah.
Ahsoka's
Sure.
gonna do
So
that.
I will retract that statement. The second statement I will bring up here about the series that's a detractor. A 59-year-old woman should not make me think thoughts that me no longer makes me think, because
Finnick Shand?
Finnick Shand, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Make
I'll
me
just leave
think
that
whatever
right
you
there.
want.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah, I was watching it with my mother-in-law. She's like, "Oh my God, she's almost 60." like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That's
Exactly.
that's a
Yeah,
pro
we'll-
and a
we'll count it
con.
as both.
yeah. Has everyone? Jake, is it your turn?
I think so.
Sure, mine will be pretty brief. Both of you guys have covered mine. My pros, we have more live action Star Wars, like Gabe said. The new, or not new characters, but new to on-screen characters. Expanding the universe. Ethan touched on probably one of my favorites was developing the culture of the Tusken Raiders. And I really liked a lot of their callbacks that they made to the old Star Wars, whether it was the original trilogy or even the prequels. I thought they did that really well. I really liked their callbacks that they did. Few cons. Number one, Jonathan Rodriguez was my biggest con. Robert Rodriguez. And the dialogue, and then I think at this point, I'm not sure of what their angle is with Boba, aside from accentuating Mando's story. But I think the way it's going right now, I don't feel like they should have brought Boba back after 40 years for this.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything everyone just said is, I think, well-founded, because this is the whole roundup is Star Wars makes us have these types of conversations, and we can talk about what should have been done or what could have been done or what might have been better all day long. But the fact is we got what we got. And now we have more conversations to have, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Did I give my pros and cons yet?
You don't get to, because I hate you.
Oh, fine. Okay, I'll just shut up then.
I'd much rather be having these conversations than not being able to have them at all.
Go ahead, go for it.
So my big pros was, I think, like everyone else has said, we get new Star Wars, new live action Star Wars that actually played, let's not be picky, played very well to the Star Wars lore. I mean, we got to see a lot of lore in this show. I mean, things that we wouldn't normally see, things that we haven't seen in 20 years, like a lot of good callbacks, and that I really enjoyed. I mean, we got to see the inside of Jabba's palace. We got to see farther inside of Jabba's palace than we've ever seen. We get a little glimpse of it in the Battlefront games, but it's never the same.
It matched the Battlefront game pretty close.
Yeah. That was really cool. I would have to say, all in all, the pros on this is the lore. I really enjoyed, even though I feel like it was misplaced and Boba should have been the more focal point, but I did really enjoy Mando popping in. Grogu and him are reunited. Get to see what happens in Mandalorian Season 3. And the con I have is no Danny Trejo, no Machete, and no shirtless Danny Trejo. Or with a vest with no shirt. So that's my con.
All right. Ethan, did you give yours yet? You did, right?
Okay. Yeah, you did.
Yep, the time has come. It's
Series
almost 2 hours in, boys. I'm going to give it a 6.
I'm going to give it a 7.
I'm going to go there. 8.
How in the world did I get the lowest score? I'm giving it a low 6.
Wow, okay.
That's really strange. I thought I was going to be on top with that guy.
High five?
I think the highs are great, but they're so spaced out. And then while the Mando stuff is great, it just completely changes the cadence of the entire show. From that point onward. And then it ruins, Mando being there ruins the finale.
Mando should have showed up in the finale, in my opinion.
If at all. That probably would have been better. And then you could have sprinkled in Book of Boba Fett in Season 3 of Mando, like you had said a couple weeks ago, Lige.
It is so funny because I feel like this is the discussion that Star Trek fans were having when Deep Space Nine was coming on air, when they were going with serialized storytelling. And people are like, this is Star Trek. We don't do serialized storytelling. We do episode to episode to episode. And I feel like this is kind of the conversation that a lot of Star Wars fans are having right now, because this is the first time we've seen a series kind of dip its toes, and I'm not saying it's fully this, but it's dipping its toes into kind of that anthology series storytelling. And are we having a hard time adjusting to that, maybe? Or are some of us having a hard time adjusting to that way of storytelling?
I think we would be able to adjust to it better if the story was longer.
And
I think Gabe makes a good point.
And if the precedent hadn't... If the precedent hadn't been set for what The Mandalorian is, this is what I keep going back to. This is what we were comparing to in the beginning of the series. It was like, the precedent has been set, and what you showed us so far hasn't been as cool for a character who set the precedent for the new character. So, I feel like, it's a bit jarring to see.
I feel like we've got Boba Fett in Mandalorian, and now Turnabout is fair play.
Okay, that's fair.
So it fits the pattern to me, anyway. But that's my point of view.
You're wrong. No.
Well, hey,
I feel like as
you will find that there are certain truths from a certain point of view.
Oh,
Only as
there you go. You have
Wow.
a little bit of the book. There's a certain okay, whatever. Go ahead, Jake.
I was just gonna say, I feel like as a standalone show, Boba Fett itself, I give it a 7. But if I'm gonna compare it to Mandalorian, I'd give it a lower rating. Because if you're gonna compare it, which I get is
People
most
get
people are
mad when
gonna
you
do.
compare,
then yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
but the thing about it is how can you not?
I say my rating was a totally non-comparison to.
So
Mandalorian.
okay, let's say it this then. Let's look at it through this lens.
so was mine.
You are a casual Star Wars fan, and you are watching this purely to watch something on TV. Like, you don't really like, you like Star Wars, but you're not like gung ho about Star Wars. How do you feel about this show? Because my rating's different at that point.
I'm going to jump.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it's probably closer to 10 in my opinion, because this is the first of the Star Wars series that I've actually been able to have conversations with my dad about, because my dad's watching it. And my dad is 74 years old. I mean, he hasn't thought about Boba Fett since he walked out of Return of the Jedi from the theater, right? And I'm having conversations with him about it because he's enjoyed this series and has followed it. And he doesn't know who Cad Bane is. He doesn't know who the
Right.
Marshal is, other than seeing him briefly in episode 2. But he has enjoyed watching this series and catching up with a character that he's tacitly familiar with, right? And so for that reason, I would say it has the ability to gather in those casual watchers and do something positive for them.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think if you're a casual, if you love TV shows and you're a casual watcher, I would bump it up to like a 7, I think, for me.
I'd
Yeah,
bump it to
I
an
would
8.
bump it to a 9 because I feel like I think a lot of Disney viewers now are comparing everything to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think
Yeah.
this is the closest thing that we've gotten to Marvel in Star Wars. It was goofy, and it was the slap happy, kind of violent comedy that we all know and love from the Avengers movies.
You know what?
And I feel like that really, hits home to the general audience.
The more I think about it, if you're not taking these like nuanced topics of like Mando ruining the show or whatever, and you're just looking at it for like face value show, yeah, I think, you know what, it's probably somewhere in the realm of like an 8 or a 9, I think, for the casual viewer. But for someone who like these literally the entire point of our conversation of like, why does da 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 da, all these different X, Y, and Z points, yeah, I think it's a completely different conversation. So overall,
because we're Star Wars fans.
exactly. Whereas it's going to be a different story for someone who's just casually watching it. So there you have it. But that concludes our review of the Book of Boba Fett, gentlemen. We did it week to week. We put out our episodes. This episode's going to go out hopefully sooner than the last one.
Next weekend, once you're done editing.
There's going to be a lot of editing, I can already tell. But I enjoyed it. I'm very much looking forward to going back to The Mandalorian and seeing just how different Season 1 of The Mandalorian is compared to this.
It's going to be a totally different feel.
It's going to be one of those things where I already know I'm going to be doing the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, pointing at the TV, saying, why didn't you just do this with Boba Fett?
Because they already did it with Mando, and that's the shame.
It's no way to live, Gabe.
Why,
no way to live.
Why couldn't have Boba just been Mando?
Stop. You need to stop with, we're getting live action Star Wars, and I'm able to go back and enjoy it.
Listen to Ethan. Ethan,
Because
Well,
we're
gentlemen,
Ethan is
moving-
speaking
I hope
truth.
you guys
I bet-
enjoyed your time.
Don't cut me off. Don't cut me
on
off.
the show. Man, do you guys hear anything?
I'm
No.
stoked for Ahsoka show. I think Ahsoka
Dude.
show is
Oh,
going to
man.
be top
Kenobi.
notch.
I'm looking forward to Kenobi.
And Kenobi.
We're going back to
both of them.
Tatooine, boys.
I'm worried about Kenobi. I really am worried about Kenobi,
Why?
and I'll leave it at that.
It's got Ewan McGregor. It's going to be great. That's all I need.
There you
it
go.
has.
Listen
You're
to
setting
Jacob.
up a lot. You're setting up a lot to fail. A lot to fail. If you think Boba Fett was bad, talk about Obi-Wan
There's
Kenobi.
there's no way.
There's no comparison. There's
Who's
not even. It's
producing
not even
that
close.
show? Who's running that show?
I can,
Isn't
I
it
can
Dave
look it up right
Filoni?
now.
It's
Oh.
Filoni and Favreau. Pretty sure.
Nothing to
Oh,
worry
yeah.
about.
Yeah,
we're
done.
fine.
Nothing
We're
to
fine.
worry
And
about.
it's Obi-Wan. It's Obi-Wan, a much more established character, Ewan McGregor, and
It's going to be
like
good.
Ethan said, you
for-
got those two producing it.
It's going to be good for the simple fact that literally, in A New Hope, Vader says, "When I last left you." Vader,
Yeah.
So-
Vader is going to let They're gonna fight, and Vader is going to let Obi-Wan Kenobi live, and we're going to have a full circle moment whenever it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna
Can you
be so good.
Guys, can you imagine if we're all together 4 months from now saying, "Wow, I can't believe Disney Plus folded that quickly after Kenobi ended."
So I mean, do you guys know for sure that Filoni and Favreau are producing
No.
Obi-Wan Kenobi? Because Wikipedia says it's Kathleen Kennedy is the executive producer for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
She's the
Uh-oh.
executive. She's the executive producer for everything that's coming out. She's in every episode of the
Yeah.
credits of this show.
Yeah, we need to find out
well,
who's in creative charge of this show,
It's
and then
probably
we'll have a good
Favreau-
idea.
As far as their Wikipedia page goes, Favreau and Filoni are nowhere to be seen on this page at all.
well. We're gonna get more details about it soon.
It's still Ewan McGregor. It's
Yeah.
gonna be good.
Honestly,
Ewan
I
McGregor
didn't
is
think
a
I would
producer,
be
it says.
excited for Andor. That's
Yeah.
that show.
I'm not.
I'm looking
I'm
forward
not-
to the end of the year when that starts to roll out.
What I'm really looking forward to is Acolyte. That's really what I'm looking forward
It's gonna
to.
be-
I love the High Republic idea and the concept, and the books are very good. I'm really interested to see
Oh,
the
yeah,
the
I
Jedi, the Jedi Order in its highest form in live action.
That's
I'm really
that's
excited
cool.
to see
You guys can have it.
Okay.
I'm all my chips are on Ahsoka. All my chips.
Look,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is, so Charles Soule, okay, Soule, however you want to pronounce his name, he has done all of the Vader comics that are now canon from 2017 onwards. Charles Soule has also written a couple of the new High Republic books. And I really, really like Charles Soule a lot.
The books are great.
He
I really enjoyed the books.
He loves Star Wars. He understands Star Wars. And if they're basing a lot of the stuff off of what he's written, I think has potential to be really, really cool. And if you have not read the Vader comics, I'm in the middle of them right now. Holy crap.
Oh yeah. I read 'em all.
Talk about like showing us Anakin without showing us Anakin. You know it's good when you're reading a comic about Darth Vader and you're reading it in Hayden Christensen's voice
Yeah.
because he's internalizing, and it's like, wow, this is so good. Like it's really, really good. So definitely check those out if you haven't, and read Light of the Jedi because you gotta. So, gentlemen, it's been
Neat.
almost 2 hours and I'm tired and I'm just sick of yelling into the microphone. So, Ethan, let's throw it to you first. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Drive Back the Night podcast. Twitter is Andromeda Pod. You'll find me at that handle, or at Ethan Maestri if you want to follow my personal Twitter. But yeah, at Drive Back the Night at Andromeda Series Podcast, that's where Ryan and I do episodic discussions of Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. So go check us out there.
Jake?
Twitter is Federko, Ferderko, and my Instagram is Jacob Allen Photos, JACOBALAN Photos.
And last but not least, Lige the guy.
Creep to your left on Instagram and Twitter, and always write about Star Wars at twitter.com.
Sounds like you have 0 followers.
Yeah. Cad Bane, justice for Cad Bane. Hashtag justice for Cad Bane.
www.justiceforcadbane.org.
Yeah, you know where to find me, ladies and gentlemen. If you're listening to this, you made it all the way through this. God bless you. You know.
No one has.
Probably not.
No one has.
Probably,
We're
probably
talking
just
to an
us
empty
four.
audience.
Yeah, probably just
Yeah.
us four are the ones.
I was
that
gonna say
make
we
it all the
hardly
way
made it
this.
through
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, I'm so I'm so tired now. This feels like Age of Geek days to me, because it's like simultaneously thinking actively thinking while you're trying to argue, and it's just hard.
Yes.
It's just hard.
It's
like
it's emotionally
it
draining.
really is. Ethan's just very
I love it.
manipulative. Ethan's
I love it.
Ethan's all let the hate flow through you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, do it. All right, everyone, say goodbye.
Toodles.
Stay classy.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Well, once again, thank you so much for showing up today. I really, really appreciate it. Again, if this is your first time here, consider subscribing. I know that's the thing that all the YouTubers do. Everyone's asking to sub. The fact of the matter is that it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and who knows, you might even see a video every now and then that you actually like or may be interested in. Not only that, I do a bunch of stuff, so make sure you check all the information down in the description down below. We got podcasts, we got Let's Plays, we got all kinds of stuff for all kinds of fandoms. So make sure you check that out. I would seriously, seriously appreciate it, and I would love to see you around here more. I am Gabe real fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic.